This is sponsored by Recon.
Hey, are you feeling alright? You alright? You look a little bit down there. Has something been going on? You're not feeling great today. You crying? What are you crying? You crying? Hi, I'm Dave from Boyinaband. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the happiest places in the world. See, a lot of people try to measure countries on something called GDP, Gross Domestic Product. And a lot of those people measuring with GDP kind of use it as a metric of success for that country. But perhaps money isn't the be-all and end-all. Perhaps it's possible to be successful monetarily, but also deeply, deeply depressed. And it's that kind of cheerful thinking that led to a slightly different metric. Gross national happiness. So gross national happiness is an index that's used to measure the collective happiness and well-being of a population. Now, money obviously does have some contributing factors to happiness. If you can afford healthcare, you're probably going to be a little happier than someone whose child is dying of cancer and there's nothing you can do. Probably. However, it's not like a definite thing, and past a certain point, money does not statistically improve your happiness. There are some countries that aren't earning that much money who are incredibly happy. Why the hell? And how? And what the hell am I doing wrong? So that's what we're looking at today. What can we learn from these countries that are incredibly happy? And what the bloody hell are we doing wrong? Happiest country in the world. Shock horror, we're starting with Scandinavian countries. They always tend to be at the top for anything frickin' positive. This is the world's happiest country. So this is back in 2018, okay? Finland is the happiest country in the world, according to the latest World Happiness Report. Alright, how do they measure this? What are they looking at to see who's happy? On the World Happiness Report site, so these are surveys, that's how they've done it. I'm pretty sure asking someone if they're happy is probably going to be the best metric you'll get as to whether they are happy. All the top countries tend to have high values for all of the 6 of the key variables that have been found to support well-being. Okay, so there's 6 key variables apparently. So we've got income. If you can afford food, then you're probably slightly happier than if you're starving to death. Healthy life expectancy. Yeah, healthy being the optimal word there. You don't really want to be in a coma. Social support. Sorry, everyone. So if you've got friends, you're probably a bit more cheery. Freedom. If you don't got freedom, what do you got? Sorry. Trust and generosity. That's an interesting one. So if you're kinder, then you tend to be happier. Okay, the UN's happiness rankings use one data point where they ask people to rate their lives on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being the worst possible life and 10 being the best possible life. So 0 is like being a child soldier and 10 is like best possible life. It's kind of sad that I'm struggling to think of an example here. And 10 is like suddenly everything tastes like white chocolate. You find out that you were a wizard the whole time. Wait, that would be kind of sad because you missed all the opportunities. That'd be a 9. Every time someone says something mean to you, you immediately have a spectacular clapback and then everyone claps. The latest rankings show Syrians, Burundians, and Central Africans rating their lives the worst. Being in a war zone does not make you cheery. Interesting. And people in the Nordic countries rating their lives the best. 7.5 on average. That's insane, that difference. Luck of the draw, Christ. You got income inequality. What about happiness inequality? The analysis of happiness changes from 2008 to 2010 to 2015. Okay, so they've actually looked at which countries have gained the most. Togo has been the biggest gainer in the past 7 years, moving up 17 places in the overall rankings from the last position. The biggest loser is Venezuela, down 2.2 points on the 0 to 10 scale. Christ. I've heard that a lot is going on in Venezuela at the moment, but I didn't realize it was that bad. No matter where they were, that's like roughly half of their happiness gone. But yeah, let's not look at Venezuela. We're gonna look at the cheery people. Getting off track here. What's going on in Finland? Why does Finland get to be so happy? In the 1860s, Finland suffered a famine that killed about 9% of its population, and now it's happy. The end. It has come a long way since. What makes these countries so conducive to well-being? No doubt the answer is multi-causal. Ugh! I want one thing that I can do now that doesn't take much effort. Why do these Swedish boys get to be happy and smiling while I have to be depressed? That's what I want to figure out. Inequality matters for many reasons. High among these is that it impacts upon the health and well-being of the populace, including those near the top of the pyramid. This point dawned upon economists when they noticed that although countries like the USA and UK were growing richer year on year, their populations overall seemed no happier. So people tend to compare themselves to other people rather than in absolute terms. So because humans tend to compare themselves with others so much, inequality is a big factor when it comes to happiness. Okay, so inequality is one thing. Bam! Put that in the list of things. Inequality. Social capital. The extent to which we trust and feel connected to those around. The quality and quantity of our friendships. The strength of our support networks. So that is, more equal societies with their higher levels of social capital do better on just about every available metric. Mental health, crime rate, level of trust. Okay, that's probably a stupid one to say when you've just said that social capital is the extent to which we trust people. If you trust people, then your level of trust will be higher. So social capital and inequality. Those are the two big things. Bam, bam. Okay, to give one example. The average CEO's salary in the USA is 354 times higher than those of the company's workers, whereas in Denmark it's only 48 times higher. So you might say that, oh, but those CEOs in America are working for like the biggest companies in the world, like Apple and Amazon and stuff like that. And because those companies are so big, they need to pay the CEOs more because they're the biggest CEOs, they need to be the best and you need to pay for the best. I can see the logic, but does that mean if you use that system, everyone is going to be less happy? Even if you feel like you're paying Jeff Bezos fairly by giving him however many skrillion dollars, is that making Jeff Bezos and everyone else less happy? And if so, should Jeff Bezos take less money? What else we got? Anyone else thinking about it? It's true that last year all Finns were happier than the rest of the country's residents, but their immigrants were also the happiest immigrants in the world. It's not about Finnish DNA, it's the way life is lived in those countries. Despite winters without much sunlight, Scandinavian residents are the happiest in the world, according to this report. That's an interesting point. I heard a lot about SAD, seasonal affective disorder, which some people chalked up to like there's less sunlight during the winter so people get more depressed. Sunlight might not have that significant of an effect on your happiness, at least compared to maybe inequality, social capital, and whatever the hell these guys are about to tell us. While Scandinavia may have reason to celebrate, the rest of the world is not so happy. Oh no, serious music. The US's ranking also fell, credited in a large part to a compulsive pursuit of substance abuse and addictive behaviors. Do you perhaps think that people might be a little upset before they abuse substances? There might be something before that. It's not just that the substances... It feels kind of like saying, yeah, people are sad because they say the words, I'm sad, when I ask them if they're sad. It's like, there's nothing in their brain making them sad before they say those words. But as soon as those words are said, that's the point where they are sad. Okay, come on, BBC. This is my country. This is my freaking tax pounds at work. This will be the best article you've ever seen. You just wait. This will be the most insightful thing we've ever heard. My government does nothing wrong. Finland's well-being, for instance, scores especially high in the absence of negative feelings category, but just a bit above average in the positive feelings category. That's interesting. So maybe in Finland, people aren't necessarily much happier, but they are less unhappy. Like, they're more just content. They don't feel cheerful all the time. They feel down a lot less of the time compared to other countries, perhaps. That's what we're on about. Here we go. There were findings in the research paper, Dark Contrasts, the Paradox of High Rates of Suicide in Happy Places. Okay. It's a sad title. People often judge their well-being in comparative terms. The researchers say that a depressed person may become even more depressed when surrounded by especially happy people. Does that mean that if you're depressed, then you will be happier if you hang out with other depressed people? I've noticed that when I feel particularly depressed and withdrawn, I feel more comfortable talking to my depressed friends than my, more conventionally happy friends. So I can see some of that. Like, when I'm really, really down, I might chat to my boy Corpse Husband. He's a horror narration channel. He doesn't really show his face, and he's perhaps not the cheeriest fellow in the world. But yeah, I feel more comfortable talking to him than I would sending a message to Rumi. And Rumi's incredibly kind. He's always there listening when I have a problem and when I do talk to him. But yeah, perhaps it's just easier to not feel quite so bad if I'm not comparing myself to someone who has their life together. Why are people like that? Why is it so comparative rather than absolute?
So what are the factors that rank Finland, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and Switzerland the happiest countries in the world?
It isn't just about being really rich or about being really socially connected or about having a really good government. It's a whole mixture.
So if inequality is that big of an issue, maybe fixing inequality is a good thing. If you want to be happy, of course, you might not want to be happy. Perhaps you really enjoy emo music, in which case, the more inequality, the better emo. Perhaps that's what we're looking for.
For people out of work in Switzerland, there are generous unemployment benefits. Most are eligible to receive 80% of their last salary for anywhere from 6 to 18 months. In Sweden, parents are entitled to almost 16 months of paid parental leave per child. And in Finland, this year's winning country, The government even provides baby boxes to all new parents.
So yeah, if your government's giving you a baby box, then you're probably going to be happier than if your government's like, good luck!
I joke with the other Americans that we are living the American dream here in Finland.
That's a harsh burn. Ooh, murdered by words. We are living the American dream here in Finland.
Finland, Norway, Denmark, and Iceland all rank among the highest taxed countries in the OECD.
That's interesting too. So the happiest countries are the countries that pay the most tax, but they also have a government that isn't just stealing all of that tax money. Yeah, if frickin' Greece or Venezuela suddenly start saying, yeah, we want a bunch more tax so you can be happier, their history of corruption might make that a little less effective, perhaps.
In other countries around the world, residents are struggling with corrupt governments, weather-related crises, and poverty.
That's it. We have to fix the weather. So never mind the poverty and the inequality. No, we need more sun. That's the issue. Weather. Slap it up there.
We visited the reigning champions of joy to see what makes them so happy.
There's so much sarcasm in this dude's voice. Christ.
Are you happy?
I feel that on such a deep level. Are you happy? Oh.
But then when you measure happiness with like positive emotions, like joyfulness and how much do you smile every day and so forth.
Where is Finland on that scale?
Not close to the top.
Again, it's to do with the difference between are you negative a lot of the time or do you have a lot of positivity? So Finnish people don't have much of either. So that pushes them up quite a lot. Whereas if you were just asking Finnish people, do you smile a lot every day? They'd be like, nah.
At the top of that scale
we go.
are cheerful if impoverished Latin American countries like Paraguay and Guatemala.
That's interesting. These are the ones that are cheerful. Highest positive experiences. Paraguay and Costa Rica. I'd seen Costa Rica called the happiest country before. I guess that's the kind of thing that they were talking about.
Word happiness is that like, everybody seems to define it in different ways. As a researcher, I said that, we should like get rid of the word happiness.
What term would you prefer is used?
I would prefer that we have like few separate words, like positive emotions, life satisfaction, meaningfulness, and like see these as three separate things.
That's a good point. Just saying I want to be happy is not as useful as saying I want to have more positive emotions. I want to have more life satisfaction. I want to feel like there is meaning in my life. Like those are very different things which a lot of people would kind of messily group together under the term happiness. Let's look at the people who have a lot of positive emotions, a lot of smiles, a lot of cheer. Okay, I just got to an article about how Paraguay conquers happiness. First line, ignorance is bliss. That feels like a straight diss towards Paraguay. Oh, Paraguay people are idiots, that's why they're happy. If Paraguay is one of the most unfair, corrupt, and unequal countries on earth, and if we almost all agree that injustice, corruption, and inequality are the great evils that plague us, then why do its residents say they are so happy? That's a fascinating question. One of the most noted characteristics of our idiosyncrasy is blindness, so the people don't pay much attention. A businessman in Paraguay says their habit of not examining their past very closely or living for the moment. That adds up with some of the therapy that I was suggested to try, ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, where the research is all about meditation and focusing on being in the moment, and that makes you more content and happy. It's important to see whether negative experiences outweigh positive ones. It doesn't happen in Latin America, where people reported both the highest positive emotions and the highest negative emotions, and yet still ended up on top in terms of well-being. So in Latin America, the passionate Latina, where they just have really intense emotions, both negative and positive. Oh, that's cool. Gallup, the people who did these polls in the first place to test this stuff, actually made changes for their employees. We do a range of things where the office will get together and say, let's choose an emphasis on community well-being. I'm not sure quite what that would actually mean, but they also choose 5 non-profits and get involved in them. Because they've seen science talking about generosity making people happier, they got together and decided to be generous as a community. Yeah, and that's going to have the community tie-in as well. Did it make people happier? It certainly improved their well-being. So Gallup seems to think it's helped their own people. I'd be curious to hear from the employees. How about Costa Rica?
What does a dancing avocado salesman with just a few dollars in his pocket have in common with a multi-millionaire?
Are you saying that one size fits all, that everybody can be happy in the same way?
You want to enjoy life day to day.
They're differentiating between these different types of happiness. So you got enjoy life day to day.
You want to look back in your life and be proud of it.
Not stay awake till 3 a.m. thinking, why the hell did I do that?
And you want to live a purpose-driven life.
And have a purpose, like kind of know where you're going, I guess. Have your own story.
To prove it, he takes us to Costa Rica.
As a rule, The richer a society is, the happier they are. But Costa Rica isn't all that rich.
He introduces us to Trini, who earns a living scrubbing toilets.
So I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10 how happy you are. She says a 10.
God. I don't think I know anyone that would say they are a 10 if you ask them how happy they are. That's insane. Like 0 people in my entire life I've ever met.
Religious people tend to be happier. She was able to relinquish the worries and stresses of her life over to something bigger.
I've heard that religion makes people happier, which sucks when you are not religious. Maybe it's time for me to stop looking for evidence in things and start praising the Lord and start throwing my hands up to Jesus. Okay.
At this market in the city of Cartago, the fun is often instigated by chambres, the avocado salesman.
I think it's funny that like they were just showing that example of everyone messing around, roughhousing and being playful. And I'm just thinking, okay, who owns those potatoes? That's putting their hands all over them. That's gonna cause him to have to wash some of those potatoes. That's such an inconsiderate thing to do. Whereas these people are clearly just enjoying the moment and not worrying about the tiny amount of germs on those potatoes. I think that says a lot about the cultural difference there.
But what about that Costa Rican avocado salesman who grew up dirt poor and dropped out of school?
A few years ago, he was down to $8 in his pocket. He gets a phone call from his friend who said, "You just won the national lottery."
Nearly 100,000 US dollars. But there's a twist.
Within 1 year, he gave it all away. He gave it to his mother. There was a beggar in the market he saw every day. He gave it all away. And I asked him, "Aren't you sad that you blew all this money?" He was, "Absolutely not. I'm still a 9 out of 10.
That's so cool. What a cool story to find. So this guy had $8 and then he won the lottery and then he gave it all away. And he still says he's a 9 out of 10 happiness. And there's all these stories of like people winning the lottery and just freaking killing themselves or think that like it's the worst thing that ever happened to them. This guy made it the best thing by just giving all the money away. So what have we learned? So the big ones that we saw initially when it came to more contentment rather than happiness were income inequality and social connectedness, social capital, whatever they called it. Then here, we've just been looking at Costa Rica, being able to live for the moment and not think too much about the horrible things that go on. I don't know how I would stop doing that. There are exercises in acceptance commitment therapy, ACT, that are like statistically effective for this kind of thing. They haven't worked for me yet, but I'm assuming for a lot of people they are effective. So perhaps give all your money away as long as you have over 75,000. Make sure you're secure. Make sure you got a family. If you haven't got a family, you're doomed to be depressed for the rest of your life. Cheers for watching and have a nice day. All right, well, I've got a flight to catch.
Hello, mate.
David, what the hell? How did you get here?
I caught a flight, I assume like you. And boy, am I glad I bought these bad boys, my Raycon E25 earbuds. You know, they start at about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds on the market.
Look, I was just looking to chill and listen to a podcast or something. Can you just...
Oh, mate, these bad boys are amazing for podcasts, or anything really. They sound just as good as other top audio brands. You know, you just pop them in and go.
Yeah, I own a pair.
What?
I own some Raycons. They're great for listening to stuff when I'm traveling, and they're really convenient, and they actually stick in my ears.
Oh, mate, those are the old ones. You've got to get some of these new bad boys. It's their best one yet. With 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more fucking bass, and a more compact design that gives you a nice noise-isolating fit. And, mate, look, the charging case thingy looks like a pill. I fucking love pills.
Can you not say that?
I know, mate. Don't try and swallow it, pal. Trust me.
Oh, please stop talking about pills in a sponsor segment.
And these bad boys come in a bunch of fun new colours. You could be red-pilled, you could be blue-pilled.
Maybe don't phrase it that way.
So if you love music and you love not getting all tangled up in wires, then head over to the link in the description and get 15% off your order. That's buyraycon.com/fucking Davo.
Thank you. Enjoy your trip.
Oh, believe me, I will.